नमस्कार। डॉक्टर के HCFI हार्ट केयर फाउंडेशन ऑफ इंडिया के इस प्रोग्राम में जो हमारे सबके जो चहेते सबके मेंटर डॉक्टर के अग्रवाल जी पिछले 2 साल नवंबर 2020 में इस राउंड टेबल एक्सपर्ट ग्रुप एनवायरनमेंट को इंट्रोड्यूस किया था और तब से ये ऑलमोस्ट नॉन स्टॉप चल रही है। हमारे सभी एक्सपर्ट मेंबर के सहयोग से, उनके लगातार जो उनका कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा उनके सबसे, और जो हमारे HCFI के जो ट्रस्टी हैं उन सबके कोशिश से चल रही है। और हमारा यही प्रयास है कि डॉक्टर के अग्रवाल के द्वारा जो आरोपित ये छोटा सा पौधा उस समय था, वैसे तो उनका कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत रहा पब्लिक हेल्थ एनवायरनमेंट में, जो कभी भुलाया नहीं जा सकता है। लेकिन पर्टिकुलरली जो एनवायरनमेंट में फील्ड में उनका, बिकॉज उनका ये कहना था कि पब्लिक हेल्थ और एनवायरनमेंट दोनों इंटीग्रेट एक दूसरे के पूरक हैं, और जब तक अगर एनवायरनमेंट ठीक से नहीं होगा और प्रॉपरली मैनेज नहीं होगा तब तक हम अपनी जो हमारी हेल्थ है उसको हम ठीक नहीं रह सकते। इसी दिशा में ये हमारा प्रयास है कि हम संडे को अपने एक्सपर्ट मेंबर्स के सहयोग से इस राउंड टेबल को हम कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं। तो आज का हमारा जो टॉपिक है, अभी नए रूल्स जो है ई वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स 2022 अभी नवंबर में इंट्रोड्यूस हुए हैं, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स। और सभी जानते हैं कि अब हमारा आफ्टर जो है कोविड के बाद ई वेस्ट का जो है, और भी ई वेस्ट है जो इलेक्ट्रिकल एंड इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इक्विपमेंट्स का जो एंड ऑफ लाइफ प्रोडक्ट्स होते हैं उनके जो वेस्ट निकलता है। और हमारी सबकी यही कि हर घर में नाव अब जनरेट होता है। पहले तो शायद जो है इंस्टीट्यूशंस में, ऑफिस में और बहुत जगह जनरेट बल्क में होता था। अब तो हमारा एक यूज टू हो गए हैं कि जो भी नई कोई आया मॉडल आया, चाहे वो लैपटॉप का हो और इसका आईपैड का हो, मोबाइल का हो, तो हमारा ई वेस्ट जनरेशन भी इवन हाउसेस लेवल पे जो है इंडिविजुअल लेवल बहुत बढ़ गया है। तो बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है, और पर्टिकुलरली आफ्टर दी सोलर का, और इंडिया में तो ये सोलर अलायंस का जो है इंडिया जो प्रेसिडेंट ऑल्सो, और उसके बाद सोलर में भी हमारी बहुत अच्छी प्रोग्रेस है, बहुत प्लांट्स आ रहे हैं। तो उसमें ये जो सोलर पैनल्स हैं, सोलर मॉड्यूल्स हैं, ये सबका जो है भी ज़रूरी था कि इसको आगे कैसे मैनेज किया जाए। तो ये ई वेस्ट जो है हमारा एंड ऑफ लाइफ प्रोडक्ट्स हैं जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक एंड इलेक्ट्रिकल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इक्विपमेंट से जनरेट होते हैं। तो उसमें ये नए रूल्स जो है ई वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स 2022 आए हैं। इसी बैकग्राउंड में हम थोड़ा सा जस्ट बताना चाहेंगे, देन अपने एक्सपर्ट मेंबर के साथ स्टार्ट करेंगे। जो सबसे पहले ई वेस्ट इंडिया में रूल्स जो है 2011 में इंट्रोड्यूस हुए, बिकॉज उस समय ई वेस्ट भी काफ़ी बढ़ चुका था और प्रॉपरली मैनेज करना बहुत जरूरी था। सेपरेट रूल्स जो इसमें इंट्रोड्यूस हुए, उसके बाद अगेन 2016 में ई वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स आए, जो एक बहुत अच्छे रूल्स उसको मॉडिफाइड जो 2011 में थे, उससे काफ़ी चीज़ें जो प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम्स थी उनको ध्यान रखते हुए इसमें चेंजेस लाते हुए ई वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स 2016 से आए। तो पिछले 6 साल से ये करीब यही रूल्स जो है इम्प्लीमेंट हो रहे थे। इसमें भी देयर वर सर्टेन इश्यूज। उसके बाद ये 2022 में अभी नवंबर में 2 नवंबर को ई वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स 2022 ये इंट्रोड्यूस हुए, और ये रूल्स जो है 1 अप्रैल 2023 से, जो अभी रूल्स आए हैं 2023 से इम्प्लीमेंट होंगे। तो ये अभी करीब जो है 4-5 मंथ्स का एक प्रिपरेशन के लिए एक टाइम है कि इसकी मैनेजमेंट क्या, इसके लिए क्या तैयारी करनी है। ये रूल्स जो है दे विल अप्लाई टू एवरी मैन्युफैक्चरर, प्रोड्यूसर, रिफर्बिशर, dismantler and recycler involved in manufacturing, sales, transfer, purchase, refurbishing, dismantling, recycling and processing of e-waste or electrical electronic equipment listed in schedule 1 of these rules। एक जो रूल्स में अभी एक शेड्यूल 1 में उन्होंने पूरी लिस्टिंग की हुई है कि क्या क्या उसमें जो कवर्ड है, इंक्लूडिंग देयर कंपोनेंट, कंज्यूमेबल्स, पार्ट्स एंड स्पेयर्स, सभी इसमें कवर किए गए हैं। और वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट जो इस रूल्स में, जैसे मैंने पहले बताया, दिस रूल शेल ऑल्सो अप्लीकेबल टू सोलर फोटोवोल्टाइक मॉड्यूल्स, और जो इसके जो पैनल्स हैं, सेल्स हैं, ये सब जो है ये इसमें इंक्लूड किया हुआ है, जो कि पहले नहीं थे। विच इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। दीज रूल्स शेल कवर दी मेन इंपॉर्टेंट है एक्सटेंडेड प्रोड्यूसर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फ्रेमवर्क, जो EPR फ्रेमवर्क है, जो अदर रूल्स में, चाहे प्लास्टिक वेस्ट रूल्स में और अदर बैटरी वेस्ट रूल्स में, यह सब में कवर किए। तो EPR पे कॉन्सेप्ट पे इसमें फ्रेमवर्क जो है ये कवर किया जाएगा। सो अंडर दिस फ्रेमवर्क एवरी मैन्युफैक्चरर जो होगा, प्रोड्यूसर होगा, रिफर्बिशर होगा और रिसाइकलर, दे हैव टू मैंडेटरी रजिस्टर एट जो है सीपीसीबी का डेडिकेटेड पोर्टल होगा, उस पर रजिस्टर करना इनको कंपल्सरी होगा। एंड दे शैल कैरी आउट एनी बिजनेस this without registration they cannot carry out any business there. They also shall not deal with any unregistered manufacturer producer. साथ में कि अपना तो करना ही है कि उनके साथ अगर ट्रांजैक्शन होता है किसी का, चाहे बिजनेस का जो एक्सचेंज होता है या परचेज होता है या सेल होता है, कोई भी अनरजिस्टर्ड जो होगा, कोई डीलर होगा, तो उसके साथ चाहे मैन्युफैक्चरर हो, प्रोड्यूसर हो, रिसाइकलर हो, रिफर्बिशर हो, उनके साथ दे विल नॉट डील। सो दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि दोनों साइड से अपना भी रजिस्टर करना है और उनके किसी के साथ डील भी नहीं करना है। और इस रूल्स में रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आर डिफाइंड फॉर एवरी मैन्युफैक्चरर को डिटेल में दी गई है। प्रोड्यूसर क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, रिफर्बिशर क्या है, बल्क कंज्यूमर हमारे सभी जितने इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, होटल्स हैं, हॉस्पिटल्स हैं और जो ऑफिसेस हैं, ये सब दे आर बल्क कंज्यूमर्स, तो उनको जो है डिफाइन की गई। रिसाइकलर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और यूटी है उनको। एंड एवरी मैन्युफैक्चरर, प्रोड्यूसर, रिफर्बिशर, रिसाइकलर में स्टोर दिस, जो केवल ई वेस्ट 180 डेज तक स्टोर कर सकता है मैक्सिमम, जो है ये डिफाइन किया गया है। और दे हैव टू मेंटेन द रिकॉर्ड फॉर जो फर्दर किसी को देते हैं और जो भी कहीं पे सेल करते हैं, जो रजिस्टर्ड रिसाइकलर को अगर सेल करते हैं, तो दे हैव टू मेंटेन दैट। सो और इसमें एक और इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि प्रोविजंस ऑफ एनवायरमेंट कंपनसेशन का दिया गया है। अर्लियर यूज्ड टू बी ओनली दी पेनल्टी एज पर ईपीए, जो एनवायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट है, अंडर रूल 15 के जो है उसमें देयर इज पेनल्टी प्रोविजन कि उसमें 1 साल तक की जो है सजा और जो फाइन था उसमें, और डिफाइन किया गया था 1 लाख रुपए तक का फाइन था और 5 साल की जेल थी उसमें, और वो कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ के थ्रू था। बट इसमें जो वायलेशन जो होगा एनवायरमेंट कंपनसेशन, सीपीसीबी गाइडलाइंस इश्यू करेगा, उसके अकॉर्डिंग दे कैन इम्पोज दी जो एनवायरमेंट कंपनसेशन जो है। इसमें ईवीएस रिसाइकलिंग के टारगेट्स दिए गए हैं, वो हम देखना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि 2023-24 में 60% का टारगेट है और 2028-29 तक ये 80% ऑफ क्वांटिटी जो है जो जनरेट होगी उसका टारगेट दिया गया कि दे हैव टू बी प्रॉपर्ली कलेक्टेड एंड मैनेज। रिमेनिंग फिर भी 20% ऑल्सो जो है ये सब इश्यूज हैं। सो जितने भी और चीज़ें हैं, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी जो हैं, वो विल डिस्कस दैट विद द एक्सपर्ट के साथ। और सबसे पहले हमारे इस फील्ड के एक्सपर्ट्स अमित जैन जी, मैंने कल उनसे रिक्वेस्ट की थी, और अमित जैन जी ईवीएस फील्ड में मैं तो मेरा उनके साथ कम से कम 20 साल का साथ का हमने बहुत से उसमें काम किया हुआ है और इंटरनेशनल विजिट भी किए हुए हैं, बहुत सी जगहों पे साथ साथ गए हम लोग हैं, कॉन्फ्रेंसेस में गए हैं और बहुत रेगुलर इंटरेक्शन है। और अमित जी इस फील्ड के एक्सपर्ट हैं, तो मैं सबसे पहले उनसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि जो ये अभी नए रूल्स आए हैं इसके विषय में, आई थिंक हमारे जो इनको जानकारी बहुत डिटेल में है इनके पास, तो हम ये हमारे साथ रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे इसके साथ शेयर करें और हम इस पे फर्दर क्या इस रूल्स में क्या कुछ लैकिंग है, कैसे हो, ये सब डिस्कस करेंगे। ओवर टू अमित जैन जी। सर आपका सर म्यूट है, जरा आप अनम्यूट कर लें सर। हम हाँ जी।
Am I audible, sir?
Yes sir, now yeah.
Namaskar. Thank you, sir, and happy to be here again. पहले मैं प्लास्टिक पे भी आया था इस फोरम पे, और सर ने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा कि have been associated with this field since 20 years, and in fact I'll take you through the entire journey and my experiences, and I will also touch upon the salient features of the regulations which are, but the message is very clear. With these new rules, one has to be responsible. Even the citizens, not only the producers or the manufacturers, but even the citizens, as well as everyone, has to be responsible for disposing of or for extending the life or for anything related to this area. मैं एक presentation दूंगा सर, छोटा सा, and I hope उसमें
कामाक्षी से सर को होस्ट दे देना, शेयर कर देंगे अमित जैन जी को जी। ये सर आप शेयर कर सकते हैं सर।
स्क्रीन विजिबल है सर?
अभी तो सर नहीं है, अभी तो नहीं आया सर। हाँ अब आ
Why?
गया, आ गया, आ गया सर, आ गया।
Oh, so briefly, I will deal what are the salient features. सर ने पहले भी बता दिया कि what are the different new things which are there in this new regulation or amended regulation or whatever you may say. What happened from 2008 till 2022 when the e-waste was brought under the ambit of regulation? What has been our response? And what had been the major responsibilities since then, since 2011, when extended producer responsibility regime started in India? Then I will also deal with the collection target versus recycling target. What are the flaws and how we can become more responsible? And that's an effort. And I will also touch upon some of the market mechanism, which have been prescribed in these new regulations. So these rules, are applicable from 1st April 2023. Sorry for the typo.
Yeah.
And in this producers responsibility organization, which was a new concept introduced in India in 2016 onwards, they were required to be registered, and now they have been done away with. Now we are having EPR-based recycling targets instead of collection targets. There is a central registry of Central Pollution Control Board, which is online. So which means that the system is converging towards more transparency. The ambit of e-waste regulation has been increased, which means that there are 7 categories which have been covered, and more than 100 products which have been covered under the e-waste regulation. Solar panels, like mentioned earlier, are a new feature in these regulations. Now, in these regulations, end of the life is not defined and left to the discretion of the CPCB and the steering committee, which decides item to item and decides the EPR target. Then recycling targets are there. Then mechanism of certificate issuance and trading has been introduced. Another feature is environmental compensation, which Dr. Anil Kumar has mentioned. And there is a mechanism of purchasing of recycling certificates, which has been described in these regulations. So I will take you to the fundamental of it. We all know that there is a chain, and it's called the material flow chain. And in this material flow chain, there is exchange. There are 2 types of transaction. There is material flow and there is financial flow. The question is where, how, and what type of transaction is happening and how we regulate it. We all know that in electronic waste, there are items of economic value, and that's why they have the residual value of the products. Or what we can do is, when there is a transaction, there is a way how this transaction is being conducted. And the whole mechanism of regulation is to control this, put checks and balances, and how it can move the entire material chain. Again, the question of it now gets linked to the circularity principles, because items of economic value gets recirculated into the material flow chain, and then the circularity is introduced into the system. When we look at the entire ecosystem, we see how it works out. We have formal and informal sector. We have dismantler, recyclers, which are there in formal and informal treatment. There is a treatment mechanism and there is a disposal mechanism. Now, when we look at the entire system, we have first level of recyclers, second level of recyclers. However, we don't have metal extractors to a large extent. In bulk of it, we all know where it goes. Question is, for the last 20 years, we all had been shouting and making noise at different forums how we can extract the material of economic value and how we can recirculate it into the chain and how we should control it. It's a major question. Government has tried various mechanisms. In 2008, say, for example, what happened? Everybody said that we don't have a infrastructure for recycling. As a result of which, the e-waste was introduced in the 2008 hazardous waste management rules. Now, registration of the recyclers, registration of the everyone, say, for example, it got a legal, you can say, validity in terms of registration. And so what happened till 2011 and 12 was registration of recycler, and a number of dismantlers and recyclers, they started getting registered. We started with 3 in 2008, and it became about 50 to 60 in 2011. After intense lobbying of NGOs, intense lobbying of different pressure groups, concept of EPR was introduced. This concept was pretty new. Everybody wanted to know how, at first the producers only proposed that EPR should be introduced and it should be given separate identity, this type of waste stream. But they were not ready for meeting either the collection targets or the recycling targets. In the way market was not mature, they all lobbied that it will be an additional burden on, or they were not taking it, they were simply using this as a mechanism just to understand and emerge. Then in 2016, what happened was, for the first time, the targets were introduced, and the items were 25 items which were brought in the ambit of these rules. So then the collection targets came into being. When we have the collection targets, which means that collection infrastructure has to be augmented. So that these targets have to be met, and then they, as a result of which, certain amount of the e-waste generated has to be channelized into the proper channel of dismantling and recycling. So concept of producer responsibility organization started coming, which means the third party. Concept of orphan products, concept of historical products, they all came into being. Who owns the responsibility for orphan products? The products who nobody owns. It means assembled products, unbranded products, they were introduced. They came in, they were recognized basically. However, the extent of the problem was not covered fully again. But the industry started growing. As a result of which, the number of recyclers also got increased, as well as third-party organization like producer responsibility organization came into existence. Now, when we talk about producer responsibility organization, they started saying we are the people that will be responsible for channelizing it or guiding the brands how to meet the compliance. And we will also, in a way, try to identify good dismantlers or recyclers for the brands. So they also started, they also became a major stakeholder in this whole game. At the same time, the industry grew by leaps and bounds. And I can say that this industry is more than 10,000 crores now. From zero till 10,000 crores. But still the problem remains where all the collected item goes. And when we are reporting why the material balance is not being addressed at each level, who should be made responsible? And why we are still having problem of informal sector. That means we have not been able to formalize the sector. So as usual, the blame game started that he's more responsible, I am not responsible. And producers are responsible. Producers are not shelling out money. Producers are this, producers are that. We don't have recycling mechanism. We don't have all the recyclers are. Leakage is happening from the recyclers and leakage is happening from many ends. So this is a natural, you can say, upgradation of any intervention. And this also happened everywhere, wherever EPR was introduced in the world. So I don't think that this is something which is new to our country or we are experiencing something new. In a way, I would say that it is also a graduation and maturity of our regulation and maturity of our policymakers that we are moving towards material security as well as we are moving towards serious recycling. And that's why we have introduced the targets for recycling, which means we are controlling producers from the upstream side, and we are trying to regulate the recycling and make it more responsible for this. But when we are at this stage, we still don't have the major metal extractors in our country, which means the extractors who are responsible for extracting precious metals. So in a way, again, what mechanism do we have? Either we establish our own plants or we export the material. And this is subject to Basel Convention. When I look at the entire permissions given to the exporters or the registered recyclers, out of 300 or 400 e-waste recyclers, I could find only 26 recyclers which have been given permission since 2014, which means hardly 1% and less than 1% of our estimated e-waste gets exported in a regulated manner under Basel Convention. So the message is very clear. It is all going or getting stored or going to the unauthorized sector. So when we talk of it, like I mentioned earlier, and Daksab has also mentioned, it is applicable to every manufacturer, producer, consumer and bulk consumer, e-retailer, dealer, collection centers, refurbishers, dismantlers, recyclers. And it is not applicable under to the batteries, like items covered under the battery amended battery rules or the new battery rule. It is not applicable to these enterprises, and items, radioactive items, and also under items covered under the Atomic Energy Act. Now, under the extended producer responsibility regime, one has to prepare the EPR plan, EPR, and for each item, and the producer has to give the a time frame that this item I'll take care after how many years. Earlier, the average life was being prescribed by the Central Pollution Control Board and regulation. Now, with these more than 100 items, it has been done away with. And now it is left to the discretion of producer of information, and every information is expected to be on the portal, online portal. So they need to give that this is how they are collecting, this is how they are giving it to their recycler, so that the material balance can be established and reporting can be tracked and monitored. So this is the basic purpose of EPR authorization and EPR plan, and whatever is being put on the portal will be put on the portal, will be made. So different features in these rules, new rules, again, consumer and bulk consumer have been made responsible. But however, you can say that they are not required to maintain and report the filings, and they are required to maintain the record, in which in a way they are made more responsible in a way that they are required to maintain the items. Say, for example, they were already maintaining the inventory of items, but now they have to maintain the records themselves, but they will be more responsible in a way because anybody can audit them at any time. Similarly, producers are also made responsible, and out here, like registration on the online portal has been made mandatory, and all other things in 2016 and 18 are the same. And so you can say that the effort is more on the transparency. Similarly, now Central Pollution Control Board has been given a very crucial role in terms of maintaining the registry. Registry means registry of where the material is coming, where the material is going. So in a way, manufacturers, producers, refurbishers, they all have to register. However, State Pollution Control Board, for filing of the returns of the dismantlers, recyclers, they are made responsible. And everything is expected to be very. Port and Customs Authority are also brought under the ambit of it. And they are also considered an important exit and entry point for electronic waste. So under that, like in earlier rules, it was not there, but under the present rules or 2022 rules, they have been brought. Similarly, for not only the port, but at the same time, MITI, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, have been given a role. ULBs have been given a role of orphan products, channelization of orphan products in terms of segregation of it, in terms of finding out registered recyclers where those products can go, and after they are found in the solid waste in an urban setting, and like they in a way they are covered under these regulations. If we look at the collection targets, this is how it looked like under 2016 rules, like 15%, 30%, 40%, 50%, and 70%. However, in reality, these collection targets, this is a subject of debate, that how much collection targets have been met. And at every forum, all the stakeholders, they counterclaim or claim that these targets have been met, not target. And when we look at the data, they are only estimations. It is not made very public that what had been the collection target, and how much they have collected the material, and how much it has been treated and disposed of. Now, here, sorry for the typo, now it's not draft. You can see the recycling target by weight. This is the latest slide, like 2023 and 24, 60% of the sales figure for the financial year 2022, 23, 60% is the same. 2-year, you can say, period they have been giving. So again, 27, 28 should be 80%, not 70% out here. So from 60% to 80%, this is a tall target. I still feel that how much we will be able to achieve is a big question mark, because 80% of the sales target is very difficult to. Even in the best of the systems, which have been implementing extended producer responsibility since more than 25 years, such targets have been met. So everything will depend on the targets and how practical are those targets, and what sort of infrastructure we have for these treatment and disposal for recycling, and do we still have the recycling happening in across the entire geography of the country. Solar panels have been given like they have been covered under these, but the year for their channelization, treatment and disposal has been put as 2034 and 35, which means that these this kind of waste from the solar panels is not of immediate concern, and it will become a concern only after 2034 and 35, when recycling or channelization will start happening for this type of waste stream. So no doubt they have been covered. They are at the same situation like what we had for electronic waste in 2011 and 12, when EPR was introduced. For recent producers or who have introduced their product recently in the market, these are the targets. So this is another feature which has come up in these regulations. So in nutshell, I would say that one has to collect e-waste generated, channelize e-waste generated to the registered recyclers, maintain records, file annual returns, and citizens should be made more responsible. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit ji, for a very detailed presentation. और अमित जैन जी अभी एडवाइजर हैं यूएनईपी में, और अपनी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की है, एंड आई थिंक इज डूइंग लॉट ऑफ वर्क. थैंक यू सर. एंड मेन इम्पॉर्टेंट जो वी फील ऑल्सो प्रैक्टिकली कि जो कंज्यूमर का है, अभी भी स्टिल वी फाइंड एट अवर होम सम ऑफ द ई वेस्ट, चाहे वो आपका मोबाइल हो या बहुत सा आप लाएंगे एट होम. मतलब हमको ये होता है कि कहीं न कहीं उसको रख देते हैं, देखते हैं किसको दी। अभी भी यही है कि कॉमन पर्सन को जो अवेयरनेस है या कोई इसका मैकेनिज्म, सिंपल मैकेनिज्म कि कहाँ पे दिया जाए, दिस इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि अवेयरनेस नीड टू क्रिएटेड कि अगर हमारे अपने इंडिविजुअल में, कम्युनिटी में, हाउस होल्ड में अगर ई वेस्ट है कोई भी किसी तरह का, तो उसको हमें कहाँ पे और किस तरह से इसको डिस्पोज ऑफ किया जाए, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। और दो CPCB हैज़ बीन इन लॉट ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, बट आई थिंक जो स्टेट पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड का रोल ऑल्सो मोर शुड बी कंडक्ट डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ ए programs, workshop with the different RWA and all, so that ki awareness is created कि अगर in place suppose in RWA one should be a collections center there, all the, I mean, suppose maybe 500 families they are living there, so should be some collection center also is to be established there, so that it is channelized very well and through the registered recycler or dispenser like that way. So thank you sir. नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट जी संजीव कुमार जी, अभी रिसेंटली इन्होंने अपना आरी ससिम लिमिटेड से हैं। संजीव जी या सो अभी इन्होंने रिसेंटली एक्सट्रैक्शन का भी ग्रुप में भी देखा था, दे हैव स्टार्टेड, दे आर आई थिंक डूइंग इन ऑल द फील्ड्स इन वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट एंड पर्टिकुलरली अभी ईवीएस में इन्होंने स्टार्ट किया है। सो आई रिक्वेस्ट संजीव कुमार जी फ्रॉम आरी ससिम लिमिटेड, इज ए सीनियर, वेरी सीनियर ऑफिसर, to, I mean, about the new rules and the further what need to be done in this with respect to the rules. Over to Sanjeev Kumar ji.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar to all the people present on this panel. I think you elaborated in the beginning about what the rules are and what are the broad features. And above all, I think that what Mr. Amit Jain sir has explained, not only given us all an overview of how things originated and why it was required and what is the challenges in future also about the rules. He not only explained the rules but also gave the genesis and the problems faced and the steps taken by the government to streamline these rules. Sir, yes, these rules are very good, a welcome step. I think after 2016 coming with a broad skeleton, this has got a lot of improvisation with much more detailing out, especially on the roles very clearly defined, making it the producers completely accountable and the user also accountable to some extent. These systems, these rules will definitely lead to a situation where things may start working in a manner to capture the quantum generated and how they are getting recaptured back to the system. So with ensuring that through the rules, it is being ensured that it has to only go to authorized recyclers having all the minimum infrastructure, all the producers to have a linkage to the authorized recyclers. And there is a central portal where both the recyclers, generators, and the user and the manufacturer of the component recovered will be captured, so that the intent is to not only make people accountable, but also the intent is to close the loop. So I think these rules are very much welcome, sir. One, I don't know whether it was discussed or not. Earlier, hardly around 20 to 25 items were there. Today, it is more than 210 items. Anywhere, any electronic item, whether it is toy or any other part which has got some electrical and instrumentation item which can be categorized as e-waste is getting. So the ambit of the material or the e-waste has increased on a very larger scale, which itself is a very big thing to be brought into. Second part is also talking of the environment compensation, which was discussed, but understanding the environment compensation and with the targets given for the producers, there is again, there will be a likelihood debate coming up how the environment compensation is to be imposed. what will be the total pollution potential coming up the quantums to be generated. So that area needs to be discussed. I think Central Pollution Control Board and Mr. Amit Jain and the team who are framing on this needs to look into that, what will be the formula for imposing upon the environment compensation. Otherwise, it leaves a lot of open-ended questions. It also talks about that the environment compensation recovered will be used for developing up or finding its usage in processing plants. So how those modalities to be into has to be next step looked into that. And not the least, the most important part which I feel is that whether it is orphaned or whether it is discarded or whether it is bulk generators, these definitions needs to be very clearly brought out. Responsibility of the orphaned or the urban local bodies or the generators or the user. There has to be a lot of trainings and capacity building on the people to identify. It should not become a tool for bullying anybody. So these capacity buildings and trainings are very equally important. Otherwise, these rules will, some of these steps needs to be as a next step. And these training and capacity building has to be there so that people know what is to be done. Nothing less than that said, this sector, e-waste sector, is one of the most organized sector by the unorganized sector. I repeat, it is one of the most organized sector by the unorganized sector or the informal sector. So you don't find any e-waste just being thrown here and there on road, but you find plastic waste here and there, you find municipal solid waste here and there, you find sanitary napkins, bats, biomedical waste here and there, and even hazardous waste, C&D waste. But you don't find bulk of e-waste being just thrown with anywhere. So having this is a most important problem. But with this, we welcome these rules, but these rules needs to be further converted into modalities and some of the steps which needs to be there on the ground. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji. One of the important point which we observe as being in the government, particularly like bulk generator, including the government departments. So these rules are very clearly, the guidelines need to be framed by the MIT or maybe CPCB for the government, PSU and all related, because they are the account person sitting there or the other person there, they simply follow all kind of earlier procedure कि वो जो L1 or या higher one for the जो भी bid देगा or that was the, so they need to be clear, otherwise it's lying in the government departments because of this some procedural things. Actually rules are there, but उसमें यही हो रहा है कि वो जो अकाउंट्स के पर्सन्स बैठे हैं उनको भाई और उनको कोटेशंस किससे कॉल करना है और जो हाईएस्ट वैल्यू देगा ये लॉट ऑफ, आई मीन, तो वेरी क्लियरली गाइडलाइंस नीड टू डिफाइन. अदरवाइज मोस्ट ऑफ गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट, instead of conducting so many like workshop and the things like, we find we are hearing from the some of the departments, हमारे पास पड़ा हुआ है, हमारा procedure है और हम कैसे करें, is still there. I mean that way. So it's very important also as a bulk consumer, they target जो whatever the government department and PSU undertaking, the proper guidelines need to be defined by either CPCB or by Ministry of Electronic Information Technology Ministry. So this is one of the areas.
Yeah, just to add to your input, sir, we all must have read in the last 1 month back, there was in the news in all the newspapers saying that the government has earned more than 384 crore rupees by the sale of the scrap and the rejects. So, and most of them were through the sale of the e-waste lying there. Your concern is very right. It was all based on L1s. Most of the things could not be given to the organized, authorized people. It went upon to anybody here and there. Obviously leading to these kinds of regulations which are coming up, or these kinds of rules which are coming up, they were kept aside and it was just thrown. So sold. But point is that such, what you said is that is a part of tendering system, as a part of the getting it online registered through the portal. this should become a part of the what is called supply chain regulations or the conditions for the work order, that such material needs to go through, and these kinds of certifications should become a part if it is going through that process. So I think you are right, sir. You are saying that this needs to be a part of the system itself.
I would also like to add that, in fact, the person in the private sector, say for example, the producer, responsible for like selecting a particular agency like PRO or recycler, they also need to be thoroughly trained. And I have seen that. I was stunned by seeing the process of meeting the EPR collection target, that these procurement guys, they simply think about what is the cost to the company and what is beneficial to the company.
Yeah.
The entire concept of end of the life and the life cycle of the product or the circularity of the product is not considered by the major producers while meeting the target. And that is one of the major reasons for, I would say, not failure, but the partial meeting of the regulation 2016. So I think there also, in a major way, there is a need for capacity building of brands. Either they do it knowingly that these targets are okay, simply the targets, or the responsibility is not being fulfilled by them totally.
Yeah. And one of the important also, just like in other country, in India, very few recyclers, they have the capacity to extract or recover the precious metals and things like that, like just like Ari abhi recently Sanjeev Kumar ji ne introduced kiya, that was there. So I think this is also one of the important area ki jo bhi whoever the recyclers are there, they have the good infrastructure and facility for the recover the all the important and the kind of precious material and metals and all. I mean, that for the, so that it is a kind of become a very really circular economy. That whatever the, I mean, the recycler is recycling is just to also the recovery of the important materials and things like that. They have all the facility infrastructure. So this is the very much concerned, because they need to also some kind of incentive also to be provided with the these some recyclers who have all the the facility infrastructure for recovery of these materials. Otherwise, simply doing that and the disposing or the kind of some kind of using some component and things like not going to work. The recovery also important, that they have all the facility infrastructure for that. So Sanjeev Kumar in this, Sanjeev Kumar ji is in this regard, whatever they're doing the very good thing that we just got information about.
Just to inform to this gathering, sir, this is one of the largest facility which is coming up in Hyderabad, and is likely to be made operational by this month end. It is to recover, refine the metals and recover at least 5 types of metals like gold, palladium, and the other 3-4 more metals which are there in the system. Being on the success of it, we would like to extend to the other metals as well. And to the extent and this thing, it is being told, I cannot state it right correctly, but I'm told this is one of the 5th largest one which is there going to be in India. So let's hope success to this plant, and we definitely, it is a good asset for the nation.
Yeah, thank you again. Congratulations. So now have just 5 minutes and not much, and so I'll request if you Pradeep ji, Khandelwal ji want to say anything, because this is important challenges giving to segregation of the municipality again. So because so many every time segregation of the all kind of waste, so this is going to be big challenge for municipality with the financially, I mean, there's not very strong, and to have the some kind of a dedicated manpower or volunteer to put in something like. So you want to say any comment for in this regard, the segregation of e-waste by municipality?
I think that is a misnomer. अभी संजीव जी ने बिल्कुल साफ बोला था. Is a very e-waste is very organized through informal sector. So we don't find even traces of e-waste in our municipal solid waste. So I think that won't be any responsibility, but
it should be channelized through the authorized recycling. That is important. I mean, where to, it should not go to जो unorganized recyclers. I mean, that is a big challenge.
तो इसमें जो मेजर मिसिंग इस बार आया है, जो कि डॉक्टर अनिल आपको याद होगा 2011 में जब आप लोगों ने ई वेस्ट स्टार्ट किया था, सेंटर्स बनाए थे, सारे मेजर ऑफिसेज में अपने बॉक्सेस रखे थे,
बिल्कुल।
तो वो चीज इस रूल में मिसिंग है कि जरूरी नहीं है प्रोड्यूसर या रिसाइकलर और रिफर्बिशर और यही लोग इस पे काम करें. एक जो भी संजीव जी ने भी कहा था कि आईसी ज्यादा जरूरी है. मैं आईसी से ज्यादा जरूरी कहना चाहता हूं कि एक सिस्टम बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है जिसमें जो छोटे छोटी ई वेस्ट की चीजें हैं उसको कलेक्शन सिस्टम के लिए एक गवर्नमेंट को अलग से इसी में रूल में एक पॉलिसी देनी चाहिए थी. एक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी चाहे अर्बन लोकल बॉडी को दे, चाहे प्रोड्यूसर को दे, चाहे जनरेटर को दे, किसी को भी दें, कि एटलीस्ट जैसा आपने स्टार्ट किया था. मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लगा था वो जब 2011 में जब आपने हर ऑफिसेज में इनिशिएटिव, आपकी तरफ से इनिशिएटिव हुआ था और हर ऑफिसेज में ई वेस्ट कलेक्शन स्टार्ट हुआ था. तो कुछ ऐसे स्टेप्स भी बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है.
नहीं, वो मिसिंग है. मुझे भी देख रहा हूँ कि मैंने जब एक्चुअली उसके बाद क्या हुआ, फिर नए रूल्स आ गए, फिर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हमने तो स्कूलों में भी किया था कि जो कलेक्शन सेंटर जो बच्चे घर से लाके
जितने भी अभी जैसे बता रहे थे पीएसयू, गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसेज, स्कूल्स, जितने भी जो मतलब बल्क जनरेटर, कंज्यूमर टाइप के जनरेटर्स हैं जो
उनके लिए मिसिंग है. उनके लिए मिसिंग है यहाँ पे. क्योंकि मैं भी खुद सोचता हूँ, मुझे भी आज तक इस फील्ड में रहते हुए कि मुझे अपने घर का अगर ई-वेस्ट देना है तो आज हम कहाँ पे दें, दैट बच भी. ये एक्चुअली ये थोड़ा सा मिसिंग लिंक है एंड वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वीक लिंक है, बिकॉज इस रूल्स में कहीं भी एक कॉमन पर्सन के लिए, कंज्यूमर के लिए डिफाइंड नहीं है कि इसको अगर हमारे घर में जनरेट हो रहा तो हम घर में ही क्यों पड़े रहे. हमारे घर में भी 4 फोन पड़े हों, कोई हमें ये नहीं एकदम से पता है कि हम किसको दें एकदम से जाके.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
तो अमित जी इस पे रूल्स में कुछ बताएंगे, इसमें क्या कुछ अमेंडमेंट आने चाहिए थे या जो पिछले?
सर ये पहले कवर्ड थे और इन अ वे आई वुड से दैट इट इज अगेन बीइंग रीडिफाइंड. हाँ, ये बात मैं खंडेलवाल साहब की एग्री करता हूँ. बहुत मिनिमल रेसिड्यू आता है, वो भी टूटे हुए तार आ गए या कुछ आ गए जो उसमें आ गए. आपको एक चीज और हाईलाइट करूंगा जो कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कलेक्शन बिन्स के बारे में और कलेक्शन सिस्टम के बारे में. 2016 के बाद जब पीआरओ कंसेप्ट आया तो सबसे बड़ी बात यह हुई कि देयर हैज टू बी वेरी गुड कलेक्शन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. ये जो डिफरेंट ऑफिसेज में कलेक्शन सेंटर लगाने की बात थी या वो बहुत जोर शोर से तैयारी चालू हो गई. क्या हुआ कि एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल दूंगा. लैंप्स और फ्लोरेसेंट लैंप्स, इनकी लाइफ इतनी ज्यादा नहीं होती और ये आइटम बहुत जल्दी आती है. तो छोटा जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आइटम है जैसे कि चार्जर हो गए या वो हो गए जो कि कलेक्शन बिन में आ सकते थे, इनके इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए लैंप्स वगैरह के एक प्रपोजल गया कि भाई हर जो जैसे बिजनेस सेंटर्स हो गए या वो हो गए, वहां पे एक बिन रखी जाए जहाँ पे डिस्पोज ऑफ बड़ा इजीली करा जाए. अब उसकी जो कॉस्ट आती है वो प्रोड्यूसर्स बेयर अप करने के लिए तैयार नहीं हुए. सर कहने का मतलब 10 रुपए कॉस्ट आती थी 2015-16 में पर लैंप, कोई देने के लिए रेडी नहीं था. अब वो जो थी अभी तक जो है सब जुडिस है. अब जब सब जुडिस है तो आई थिंक वन हैज टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट ऑल दीज आइटम्स हैव सम कॉस्ट डिस्पोजल. अगर वही मीट आउट नहीं होगी तो सर क्या इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, चाहे वो म्यूनिसिपैलिटी का हो, चाहे वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर का हो, किसी का भी हो. So there has to be understanding that such type of interventions have to be financially supported through some mechanism. वो चीज थोड़ा सा मेरे को लगता है गैप है.
या तो आज हम 1 o'clock हो गया है, संडे का दिन होता है, तो विल नॉट गो फर्दर. एंड आज जो हमारे अदर स्पीकर्स हैं, चाहे नीरज जी हैं, डॉक्टर रविंदर हैं, रविंद्र कुमार, डॉक्टर रविंद्र पालाकुट्टी जी एंड श्याम गुप्ता जी, आज हम आप लोगों से एक्सक्यूज चाहेंगे कि आज हम इसको नहीं ले पाए. और टाइम की हमें थोड़ी सी लिमिटेशन भी रखते हैं कि सबका ही जो है संडे का होता है, वी वांट टू एंजॉय लंच विद द फैमिली. सो आज डिस्कशन के साथ जो अमित जी ने, संजीव कुमार जी ने और हम लोगों ने ये सब आज का ये डिस्कस किया, आई थिंक गोइंग टू बी न्यू रूल्स के आने के बाद होपफुली ये तो जो प्रॉब्लम्स थी पहले वाले रूल्स के बाद, और जो EPR का फ्रेमवर्क है या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी गिवन टू जो है, और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन सबसे बड़ी बात कि अगर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो एज पर रूल्स प्रॉपरली होगा तो दैट विल डेफिनेटली न्यू रूल्स विल हैव ए better say for the collection and properly scientific disposal of the waste. और जो प्रॉब्लम्स आती है वेस्ट से, इंक्लूडिंग hazardous जो मटेरियल्स है, उससे ये इसको आराम मिलेगा. और गवर्नमेंट से जो है ये पर्टिकुलरली जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पर फोकस है, चाहे SPCB एंड CPCB का, और इम्पॉर्टेंट है. एंड अदर जो है कंसर्न रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ये जो दी गई हैं वो अगर प्रॉपरली डिफाइंड है, और अगर इम्प्लीमेंट होगा और प्रॉपरली जो एनवायरमेंट कंपनसेशन की गाइडलाइंस है प्रॉपरली फ्रेम्ड होंगी, तो डेफिनेटली, क्योंकि पहले तो कोई इस तरह के पेनल्टी प्रोविजंस नहीं थे, प्रो कोड ऑफ लॉ थे, तो इसलिए नहीं हो पाता था. आई थिंक एनवायरमेंट कंपनसेशन से आने के प्रॉपरली डिफाइंड होना चाहिए विद दी बोथ फॉर दी गवर्नमेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू और ऑल्सो प्राइवेट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. तो इसी के साथ आज की हम ये सेशन को सबको थैंक्स करते हुए इन करेंगे, और फिर नए सब्जेक्ट के साथ नेक्स्ट संडे को फिर मिलेंगे.